Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is module 5 presentation, and we're going to be creating a CRUD application, which stands for create, read, update, and delete operations using node.js, Express, and mongoDB as our backend database. We want to have the ability to make new agents, view our agents, make changes to our agents, and finally remove any agents as necessary, delete. And we will have 5 endpoints: the post agent create, the get agents by region, put or patch agent update info, delete agent, and post region create. The application is modular and organized, easy to maintain, and follows separation of concern. Uses controllers for the business logic. Controllers are functions that contain the actual business logic of what happens when an endpoint is called. And then we have controllers with actually works as route. They are traffic coordinator, if you will, for the lack of a better term. Route define which URL path map to which controller function, which we're gonna see it in a moment, how this works. So controllers are the functions that contain the actual logic of what happens when an endpoint is called. For example, in this particular one, they create the agent. So this is the logic: get data from the request, the first name, the last name, the region, the rating, etc. And then we validate the data. We do something with that data. We validate the data. We make sure that the first name and the last name are values that are being passed. If not, then we send an error message. And then we do something with the data, right? We save, in this case, we save the data to a database, right? And then the last step in the process is we send the response, right? With the success, whether if it is successful or not. The routes, on the other hand, basically what they do is, I call it traffic coordinator, but really the routes define which URL path map to which controller function. They work in conjunction, right? So when someone visits post agent create, call the create agent controller function. When someone visits get agents, call the get all agents controller function, so on and so forth. So I'm not gonna go over all of them, but we are going to do a demo. We're gonna do a test of all of these endpoints in a minute. So let's start by doing. So routes are the traffic director. Routes define which URL path map to which controller functions. Example from this code is when someone visits the post agent create, call the create agent controller function. And when someone visits get agents, call the get all agents controller function. So routes answer when should it happen, right? Which URL triggers which function. This application is divided into two type of endpoints. We have the public endpoints and we have the authenticated endpoints, and we're gonna be testing those in a moment. But I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, right? We have the public endpoint, which is the get hello, get a status, and get error. And then we have the authenticated endpoints, which is the one that requires the authentication, the string. And those are the get agent, get all the agents, and so on and so forth. Let's test. First, we're gonna test the non authenticated endpoints. Let's start with the get hello. As you can see, we use curl to do this test, and this one should come right after we hit enter. It failed, and the reason why it failed is because the application is not running, as you can see. So we'll have to run this app before we start doing the testing. So yeah, so let's start by firing up the app before we can do any testing. If the app is not running, we cannot do any test. And as you can see, we have the debugger on, and we should be logging everything on the screen. As you can see, mongoDB connection established successfully, connected to the database, module5, connected to the cluster, data hub, and the server is listening on port 3004. And the environment, which is being pulled from the .env file, is the development environment, and the port also is getting pulled from the .env file. So let's go back to the other screen and start testing our app. At least let's test the public endpoint first, and let's test the hello endpoint, and that's the hello world. As you can see, we are not passing any password, so it's not password protected, so it should be coming up with no problem. So let's test the error one as well, which doesn't require a password. And as you can see, this is an internal error, and it's a success. Let's try the other one, which is the status code. Let's test for the status, and that also should come up, as it's doesn't require a password. As you can see, server is running on port 3004 in the development environment. That's the status. And if we go back to our application, you can see that everything is being logged on the screen. As you can see, we get the get hello, get error, and get status. So let's start testing now the other endpoints, the one that requires authentication. Give me a sec. Let's start with the agents, the one that requires all agents, and we'll start with that one first. Okay, and so this one, as you can see, the password we are using is rocket elevators secret-2004, and it's a simple string that is being pulled from the .env file, and this one should pull all those agents. Let me hit enter, and there you go. Okay, so let's redo this one in a more readable fashion. So let's pipe that to JQ, and that should be in a JSON, nicely JSON payload format. So those are all the agents, and those agents are being pulled from the MongoDB database. So let's switch to our application VS Code to ensure that those things are being logged. And as you can see, we hit the agent twice, the first time without the JQ, and the second one with the JQ parameter. So all right, so let's go back here and continue our testing. So let's do a get and get the agents. Let's do the agent by region, and let's start with region, the north region first, and that should pull all the region for the north. And as you can see, that's the north, and we can also do south. Let's just change that to another region and hit enter, and that's for the south. And if we switch to our VS Code where our application is running, those should be logged as well on the screen. So the logger should be working. So agents by region, north and south, it's been logged as well. So which means its logger is working, it's logging every call so far. Let's do another test. Let's get the email list, all the email list, get all the agents emails, comma delimited. Let's try that one now. All right, so let's run this, and that should bring all our agents emails, comma delimited. And as you can see, let's try the get region average, and let's start with the region, the north, as we did before. All right, so this is going to get all the average for that region. And sorry, this seems to be working because we misspelled the curl command, right? As you can see right here, we're missing the letter C, so we're gonna fix that in a moment. Let's go back and add the letter C, and we should run this, and this should, if it works properly, it should bring up the average for the north region. As you can see, region north, average rating, and that's working as expected. Now let's get all the stars, get all the star agents, and the expected result should be that is greater than or equal to 4.5, and the cells should be graded, I believe, greater than 500, if I recall this correctly. Let's do it, and let's do that again and add some nice formatting, so this will be nicer. There you go. So those are agents. These are the top rated agent for that particular all the stars, really. Let's do a the next one. Let's do a create agent. Let's create one agent, work with that endpoint, and we'll switch to that in a moment. So let's create a new agent. So let's change that because I already think created that test one time. So let's put something more meaningful for the agent name. And this agent is going to be Daniel, and the last name, my last name, and let's leave the email as is. Okay, and that's it. We, as you can see, we have to put the authorization, and let's run it. And error, duplicate email message. An agent with this email already exists. So it's working because I created that agent before. So let's review that. And this is an excellent test because we are doing this live. There is no editing. So we're gonna change this live as we speak, which is the way to do this testing. And we're gonna change the name. Let's change the name. And let's change the last name too. And let's change this email, right? To misspell that, and let's change this. All right, so let's see if we can create this agent. This agent should not exist, okay? So it should be able to create success, true message, agent created successfully. this is great. So we know our application is working properly. If checking if the agent already exists, if an agent with that name already exists, it will not create it. It has to be a unique. For the time being, it has to be unique. So if we switch over to our VS Code where our application is running, that should be logged as well in the logger. So in the screen, as you can see, all the stars, we ran it twice, and the agent create, we ran it twice. The first time we ran it with an agent that already existed in the database, and the second time around we ran it with an agent that did not exist. So it was a successful creation of an agent. So let's look at what else we can test. We should try to update an agent as well and delete an agent. So let's try to update an agent, okay? And let's try to update the agent that we have it before and see if that works as we want to. All right, so let's run that. Let's see. Let's do it live, right? There you go, error, not found message, agent not found with the provided email. So it has to have the email, right, in order for us to update. So let's change that email, right, to the previous email that we use for the agent that we just updated it, right, created. Let's, oops, one up. Let's change this one, right? Let's change it to Damien. And again, guys, I'm doing this live. There is no editing, so be patient and bear with me, okay? All right, let's run it. Okay, success, true message, agent updated successfully, agent ID, and we should see the logger logging those as well. Let's switch the screen to the logger and we see agent update info. That worked successfully. So let me stop the recording here and we're gonna do another live recording. I just need to clear the screen and we continue this in a moment. Thank you. All right, we're gonna continue our testing with the post, the region create, and so let's run that, and hopefully we can. Again, this is all live, as I'm not editing anything. We're running it, and if we run into a problem, we'll rerun it. Okay, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, thank you. All right, so error, invalid manager, data message. Manager must have a name, email, rating, and a fee, right? So perfect. The application worked as expected. So we should have had that information available. So let's go back to our application here and let's do a recap of what we've done. So we tested our public endpoint that worked without an authorization. We've done that. We authenticated the endpoints that requires a token, and we saw that working well as expected. We checked the logger, the middleware logs, all the requests. We tested the get agents, return all the agents. We tested the get agent by region filters correctly. We put agents update info, only updates allow fields, delete agent, and we did the region post. Basically, the way the application functions, or here's the journey of a request through the application, right? When we make a client, we make a request, right? We make a post to our local host 3004. Agent create, what happened? The headers, authorization, get hit. We have the body, it checked for whether we have the first name, the last name, so on and so forth. Then the second step is Express server receives the request through our app.js application, right? Go through the middleware in order, right? Middleware one, logger. The logger does all the logging in the screen that we've seen, right? Logs the post, agent create, or the get, hello, all of those get logged right here, right? That's what our middleware is doing, is the logger. Calls and then call next, continue to the next middleware. And then the middleware also does the authentication, right? Using the auth.js file. And check if authorization header matches the authorization token. If the token is valid, then calls next to continue. If the token is invalid token, then returns a 403 error and stops there. And then the route matching, right? Agent routes, as I explained before. Express finds the app.post, agent create, and then the agent controller that create agent. Post, agent create, call create agent functions. And the controllers execute agent controller.js and validates the request data. Creates new agents in the mongoDB database, prepare the response, and then the response sends back to the client with the status update. So that's basically, kind of the steps that this application follows behind the scene, right? Kind of an explanation of how the architecture works behind the scenes. So thank you for watching. Have a good evening, and I'll see you in the next module. Bye.